I finally bought my very first Adept Cosmetics palette. This is the Flying Fiddles. Here is what the palette looks like. I have heard so many good things about Adept Cosmetics, but honestly, none of their palettes really stood out to me. But when I saw this one posted on Instagram, I was like, ooh, I think that's gonna be my very first Adept Cosmetics purchase. So again, I bought this palette myself, and this is my very first time at trying the formula. So this is a very unbiased review, but I will say I have heard really great things about Adept Cosmetics. My expectations were pretty high going into this video. So in this video, I swatch all of these shadows, and then I create 2 different looks with the palette. I have one a little bit more colorful, and then one a little bit more neutral. So if you want to find out my thoughts about this Flying Fiddles palette, go and keep on watching. Whenever I use a new palette for the first time, I like to start by swatching it out just so I can see what I'm working with, especially a palette like this where there are so many shimmers. It's so funny seeing this on camera because this shade specifically, it's showing up pink on camera, but in person I'm seeing green, so it looks really similar to this one. So I just want to kind of see how these shades compare, and I also want to feel the formula because again, this is my first time trying Adept eyeshadows. First of all, I have to say this packaging is absolutely gorgeous. It kind of feels like they wrapped tights around this palette. It feels really cool. So let's swatch out this palette. As always, I have no primer or anything on my arm. First we have Dahlia. Ooh, yeah, so this is the duochrome that shifts from pink to green. I don't know if you can see the green on camera, but ooh, it's very pretty. This is Tan Toffee Rose, kind of like a dusty mauve-y color. That didn't swatch as well as I expected, so I'm just gonna go over that again. This one is Meadow Foam. This one actually felt kind of dry in the swatch, but that looks really beautiful. Such a pretty brown. Next is Erycema. Ooh, this one's kind of different. I'm having a hard time describing that color. It kind of reminds me of a silver but with green in it, but then it also has little pink reflex in it. I'm seeing a lot of colors on that. And then we have Daylily. Ooh, this is a nice deep kind of burgundy wine color. It's really helpful to see these shades swatched out because just looking at this, I would love all these shades together in a look, so that's an idea. This is Daffodil. Ooh, yeah, I just love a light kind of limey green, a little bit of yellow in it. I think it's so gorgeous. I kind of wish there was more reflect in this one. This one definitely leans more shimmery. This next one is Viola Bronze. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing bronze in that, but it also leans kind of peachy. That's really pretty. This is Scorpion Grass. Ooh, it's kind of like a pale minty color. The name of this next one is Pom Pom Button. Okay, kind of more of a deeper blue, but still has a little bit of green in it. Kind of matches my sweater here. And then last shade for this row is Yellow Brownin. Ooh, I like that one. I really like the look of these 3 shades together. So that is the first 2 rows of the palette. Whenever I do my arm swatches, I use some micellar water to take off the swatches, and I usually never have staining, but that one Pom Pom Button shade stained me. All right, well, let's move on to the last row. This is Sahara. Just a nice solid matte, kind of medium deep brown. This is Honey Spurge. Ooh, that'd be a really pretty just highlight shade. That's how I would probably use that one. Very reflective. This is Blue Crown. Ooh, that one's really pretty. Kind of that blue-brown color that we see a lot. Okay, we got 2 shades left. This is Rust Bunny. Ooh, this one's definitely a multi-chrome. I'm seeing pink, green, and a yellowy gold in there. I went ahead and swatched the first shade Dahlia next to that Rust Bunny one because in the pan they look pretty similar, but I feel like this Dahlia one leans a little bit more pink. I think this one is a duochrome and this one is a multi-chrome. And then the last shade in the palette, which is the 4th matte shade, is Green Kelly. Ooh, this reminds me a lot of PDX from my palette. Okay, I have to see what PDX looks like next to that one. PDX is actually way more blue than that, so interesting. Now for today's eye look, I did already prime my eyes and I used the Milani eyeshadow primer, and then I did set that primer with the translucent powder, but I'm really not loving how my eyelid area looks right now, but I also tried a new foundation today, which is looking not very good as well. So I'm just really not liking how my skin is looking. So I hope these shadows will perform okay over my not so great base. I'm still not sure on what shades I want to use today, but I feel like I just got to start somewhere, right? I'm going to start with the shade Daylily on a small little crease brush, and I'm going to pack this shade on the outer part of my eye. So the thing with this palette is that there are only 4 matte shades in it, which typically I don't really like. You know, I like when there's a pretty good balance of matte and shimmery shades. But I still wanted to give this palette a chance because I do like the matte shades in this palette. I can see myself using them, but I think I'll probably have to add another palette, maybe just mine, for some more blending shades. If you watch my videos, you know I love my blending shadows. So far the shade is very pigmented. I have not dipped back into the shadow. So I kind of started by placing it right on my outer corner, and then I'm trying to soften out the edges, kind of bring it into my inner crease. This is very pigmented, wow. So I'm just trying to build out the general shape that I want. I went ahead and cleaned off the brush on my Sigma switch just to get some of the pigment off of this because that was very pigmented. And I'm gonna use this cleaner side of the brush to start to blend out these edges. Okay, that's kind of doing something, but I still think I want a lighter shadow to help me soften this out even more, give me a really smooth blend. I am going to try this other light kind of mauve-y shade from the palette, and I'm going to see if that can help me soften out these edges at all. And I do really want to see how these 2 shades pair together since they're half of the matte shadows in this palette. Okay, I definitely think the shades go really well together. Like when they blend together, they're not showing up muddy at all. But this line still looks super harsh to me, so I am gonna dip into my palette with Sigma. And I'm gonna take a small fluffy blending brush in the shade Bare, and I'm gonna use that to try to soften out these edges even more. I know a lot of you guys who watch my videos use Adept eyeshadows, so I would love to know how you like to apply their matte shadows, because I feel like so far I have had to blend a lot. Like, is it their shimmer formula that you guys really love, or is it all their formulas? I feel like I'm really having to like work hard to blend out these shadows. You know how some shadows just kind of like blend themselves? These 2 matte ones, they don't blend themselves, but they are blending. Does that make sense? I'm gonna take more of that Tan Toffee Rose shade on this brush and just softly touch that up in my crease. I'm using a really light hand for this. Then I'm gonna go back to Daylily, and I just picked up a little bit of this because I want to deepen up this very outer part even more since I did so much blending. Is it me, or does it look a little patchy? Like, obviously where I first place my brush down is going to be the darkest, but it's like kind of tricky to blend. But again, I didn't like my eyeshadow primer combo today, so I don't know, should I like start over? I just know that so many people love this formula, so I will probably have to try a few ways to get this to work for me, but you know, sometimes you have to do that. Now I'm gonna go in with this Scorpion Grass shade on my finger, and I'm gonna apply that on the inner part of my lid. Ooh, yeah. Super pigmented right off the bat. Just realized I'm doing purple and green together again. There's just something I love about purple and green shadows. I don't know what it is. This might be crazy, but now I want to take a little bit of this Pom Pom Button shade and see if I can use that as kind of like my blending shade between this first lid color and then my deep purple. Yeah, that's kind of cool, right? Okay, and then I kind of want this inner area of my crease to just be like super sparkly and bright. So I'm gonna pick up this shade on a crease brush, and I'm gonna see if I can dust that into like my inner crease area right here. Oh yeah. So I used my brush for this because I wanted a softer look. Was that too much? I don't know, I thought I liked that at first, but I'm just like, I'm not loving where this is going. See, at this point is where I want to like stop filming and just like take my makeup off and try again tomorrow. But I know you guys like to see how I kind of fix makeup looks and just make them look better in general, especially when I'm not loving it, because maybe someone else is loving it and that's fine, you know? So I'm gonna tell myself to keep going and at least finish this eye, right? Okay, so I think I want to deepen up this outer part of my eye even more. So I'm going to take a little bit of this green Kelly shade, and I'm kind of hoping that mixing this like purple with the blue will just make it look really dark out here. Okay, I like how that deepened that up. I feel like that looks much better. Now I'm gonna bring in that Pom Pom button shade just a little bit further into my inner lid. I'm just taking a little bit of this on my finger. I think I just want this area to be a little bit deeper, which is why I'm adding more. I'm gonna go ahead and do my under eye concealer off camera, and then let's play with the lower lash line. Okay, my under eye concealer is on, and before I do the lower lash line, I wanna add a little bit more of that mauve-y shade kind of right in my inner crease up here. I just feel like I wanted a little bit more definition. Also, I realize this is turning into a super Mardi Gras look. Now I'm gonna blend that Dusty Rose shade along my entire lower lash line. Honestly, I'm not loving these shadows as much as I thought I would just based off of hearing what other people have said about the brand. Like, you guys have been recommending Adept eyeshadows to me for so long, and I do see a lot of other influencers talk about the brand. I know they get PR from the brand. Again, I did buy this palette myself. I'm just not feeling blown away, but again, that could be the eyeshadow primer as well. So I think what I'll do is let's finish this eye, and then I'm gonna wipe off what I have on here, do a different eyeshadow primer, kind of set my lid a little differently, and try again with a different look, you know? I like that game plan. Okay. Now I'm picking up a small smudge brush with more Daylily, and I'm gonna run that across the outer part of my lower lash line. Again, this shade is so pigmented. Like, I really tried to pick up a little bit, but there's just so much left over on the brush, so I'm kind of bringing it along this very outer part of my top lash line as well. And then I'm just kind of lightly feathering out that shadow. I'm just gonna blend a little bit more with that mauve-y shade. One of my favorite little tricks to make me feel better about my makeup that day if I'm just not loving it is adding a black wing. I just feel like a wing kind of takes some of the attention away from the eyeshadow, but also makes it look more put together in a way. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw on a wing with my NYX Epic Ink liner. All right, there is the wing. I'm pretty happy about that. Now I'm gonna take this Honey Spurred shade. This is the shade that I said would be a great highlighting color, so that's exactly what I'm gonna use it for. Oh, that is so bright. I actually love that for a bright inner corner. All these shadows are very pigmented. Like, even these shimmers, I only need a tiny bit on my brush. I'm also gonna bring that under the brow. I honestly kind of want to try this highlighter on my face, and maybe I will after I finish my eyes. I'm gonna add a little bit of a purple liner to my waterline. I'm gonna use Urban Decay Alkaline. Okay, that looks pretty cool with that liner. Off camera, I applied my mascara and lashes, and for my lashes, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes Flutter. And here's the final close-up of this eye look. Again, I'm just not loving this look, and I can't tell if it's the eyeshadows, if it's the shades, if it's my primer. Am I just having an off day? I don't know. Okay, so for this eye, I went ahead and primed my eye a completely different way. I just put on the MAC Paint Pot, and I'm not gonna set it. And I'm gonna use completely different shades, come up with something else, and we'll see how the formula is with this primer. So normally with my makeup looks, you know, I start with a matte transition shade, kind of build up the matte shades, and then add my shimmer. But I think I wanna try the opposite this time, where I'm gonna start with my shimmers and then add my matte shades last, and let's see how that goes. I really liked how this shade looked when I swatched it. So I'm gonna take Meadow Foam on my finger, and that's gonna go all over my eyelid. And I also think this might be better because I didn't set my primer, my lid is just like slightly tacky, so the shimmer should stick really nicely to the primer. I have just been loving brown shadow recently. Like, in my day-to-day life, and you know, like when I go out now and I'm not filming, I don't really wear colorful shadow anymore. So I've just been loving my neutrals. That is a beautiful brown shade, but I definitely need to blend that out a little bit. So I'm gonna take a clean crease brush, and I'm gonna see if I can soften the edges of this shimmer. Okay, that's actually working way better than I expected. I picked up a little bit of the shade on my brush and I'm just kind of running that throughout the crease. I really like this brown color. This is gorgeous all over the lid. Now I'm gonna pick up a tiny bit of the Dusty Rose shade. I'm gonna do like one dab into the shadow just because I know these are so pigmented. And I'm gonna lightly add that in the crease just for a little bit more depth. But I also feel like the tones of these two shades go really, really well together. Honestly, you could keep the look like this, do some brown on the lower lash line and call it good if you want like an all brown look, but I do want to layer some more shadows because I do really want to test out these formulas. So I'm going to take this Viola Bronze shade on my finger. I just think like the peachiness of this will go really nicely with the brown, so I'm going to place this in the very center of my eyelid. And then I want to take a little bit of that really light kind of highlighter-y shade and I'm going to place that in the very, very center. So like maybe it's kind of building a soft gradient from the brown to the kind of peachiness, bronziness to this really light shade. I don't know, I'm just kind of layering shadows right now. Now I'm going to take the tiniest bit of this Sahara shade. I did 2 tiny dips into that shadow and I'm going to see if I can add that to the very outer part of my eye. Again, I'm trying to do my shimmer shades first and then my matte shades. And I'm just kind of using the matte shades to deepen up the look as needed. Okay, that wasn't as deep as I really wanted, but I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna go ahead and do my under eye concealer and use that to kind of clean up this edge of the shadow. All right, now I'm gonna take more of that brown matte shade Sahara on a little smudge brush, and I'm gonna apply that across my entire lower lash line. These matte shades are seriously so pigmented. Like, I'm trying to grab just a little bit of shadow, but even a little bit is kind of a lot. In general, I am liking this look more than this one, but probably because this is like a neutral kind of brown look. Again, I'm gonna take that highlighter-y shade right in my inner corner. Honestly, this highlighter shade might be like my favorite from the palette. It's like the perfect highlighter shade for me. And it's just like super bright, which I love. And then same thing, a little bit under this brow. I went ahead and finished up this side with the exact same liner and lashes as this side. So again, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes Flutter. And here's the final close-up of this eye look. I went ahead and finished my makeup off camera and I just gotta say, I hate my makeup today. And it's not just the palette. I tried a new foundation today as well and I'm just not loving how it's looking on my skin. I tried it for the first time. I just got it in PR. It's the new Makeup Forever HD Skin Hydra Glow. Oh, I'm just not loving it right now, but I think I need to try it with some other primers. And I feel like just in general, I'm not having a good makeup day today. But I wanted to show you what these eyes kind of look like on their own with like half of a full face. So here's this one. As I've been looking at this color combo, it reminds me of a look I did. It's with one of like the ColourPop Halloween palettes because I've definitely done like a green to purple gradient many times before. Like I know what look I'm thinking of. And then here is the more neutral one. Like I said, I definitely prefer this look in general just because I'm a neutral brown girly right now. So I'm not trying to hate on this palette because again, in general, I'm just kind of having a bad makeup day, but I'm not as obsessed with the shadows as I thought I would be based off of all of the things I've heard about Adept Cosmetics. And while I was finishing my base makeup off camera, I turned on Heather Austin's video with this palette because I wanted to see her opinion because I know she's worked with Adept. She has a palette with them. She's used all of their palettes. So she did a look and was trying to see if the formula is the same as like all their other palettes, and she says it was. And it's like really hard for me to pinpoint what I'm not loving about the shadows, but I think part of my issue is I just did a video with this Get Stoned eyeshadow palette, and this palette is all shimmers, and I used this formula for the first time a couple days ago and I absolutely loved it. Like these shimmers really pack a punch. They're so pigmented, have such a nice opaqueness to them, and I just didn't really feel the same way about these Adept shadows, but these shades are not really multi-chromes or duochromes, I think, except this one. So I can't really expect the same like oomph that these ones pack, but I'm just like, I feel like these aren't good like comparisons of each other, but I'm just speaking in general because I just used this. And I felt like the mattes were really pigmented, but almost too pigmented where they were really tricky to work with and blend out. And I think if you were a beginner with eyeshadow, it would be kind of a mess with the matte shades. The shimmers do look really beautiful, but I think I was just expecting a little bit more. So I don't know, like, I think I need to try this palette again on another day and just see what I can do and use it with like a full face of products that I truly love instead of trying out some other things on my face today. So I don't know, you let me know if you think I'm being a little too harsh on this palette, but I think my expectations were really high and it honestly just didn't meet those expectations. But it's not a bad palette. Does that make sense? The bar was set too high. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on this Flying Fiddles palette, and I'm gonna keep you guys updated. I'm gonna keep using it, and I'll let you guys know if my thoughts and feelings change about this palette. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.